Hey guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Apcary and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California. And this is a podcast where I sit down with my fellow funny friends, my fellow comedians, and we talk about dads. Hi, how are you guys? Hope your 4th of July was cool. Yeah, I still got all my fingers and toes, so that's nice. Hung out with some comics on 4th of July. That was great. It was a good time. I've been meaning to have, I know you guys always really like it when I have my daughter Abby on these intros and outros, and I wanted to have her on this week, but she is in Disneyland with her mom. So they're doing the Great American Summer Vacation right now, so they're having fun at that. And but you know, I'm cool too. I'm neat. Oh man, today's guest, Jono Zalay. Jono is somebody that I had been wanting to work with for a long time, both professionally as a comedian, but he's just a really interesting guy, and I was really excited when he agreed to do today's show with me. And I listened back to it again today, and he's a lot of times, I know I've said this before, a lot of times when I'm in the moment and we're doing these podcasts, interviewing is hard. You're trying to be present with the person as they're talking, but also trying to figure out in your head where you're going to go next. And he did say something, I missed it the first time around, about friends, only having comedians for friends. And that's something I get. It's comedy life is not really conducive for friendships outside of comedy, because all the times that people normally hang out, you've got to go perform at a comedy show. And so, yeah, that's something that it was, he said it, and it was something that resonated with me well after the fact. And it is tough sometimes. I have a whole D&D group. I haven't been able to go play D&D in a while, and I miss that. I miss those guys. And they're still really nice about reaching out to me, but I'm like, ugh. We have like a group D&D message thing, and just like a long running thread, just jokey stuff. And I had to like turn off my notifications to that group, not because I didn't want to talk to them, but usually because I'm always booking shows, and I run a lot of shows here out of Fresno, California. And normally if I'm getting a text message, it's usually something I need to be attending to with the comics or the shows or the venues or whatever. And so I found that like I was building like anxiety and spite towards the group for no reason, because every time I would get a text message alert, I would just have this weird spike of anxiety, and then I would look and see it was them, and not something that I needed, not something that was a fire that needed to be put out. So it's kind of crappy, kind of shitty. What comedy does to your personal life sometimes. I've talked about that before. So, but at the same time too, Jono mentioning it, it's kind of nice to know I'm not the only one that has to deal with that. And so anyway, got a lot of really, really nice messages from folks the last few weeks. People that are listeners. Again, I love that positive. I am so insecure about everything, and so having you guys say nice things to me just means a lot. If you guys can rate this thing and review it on iTunes, that'd be great. I had some other things I wanted to mention here. Oh, yeah, no. I'll mention them in the outro. Let's just jump into it today with Jono. This is a great episode. It's a fun episode. Jono, real intelligent, thoughtful, funny guy, and I think you're going to like him a lot. So I'll see you on the other side of this thing. Could you, Owen, could you talk into your mic a little bit for me?
Yeah, we'll test out the levels here.
Testing the levels.
Usually have a low voice, but I can add it up to the radio level.
Yeah, I think you should be okay. I'll bump you up a little bit right here.
Yeah, I'm pretty...
I do multi-track recording, so I can boost the levels in post.
That's so smart.
Yeah, it's much better that way.
What mics are these?
They're some MXLs. They're kind of like mid grade. It's not. I mean, it's better than about 90% of most everything most podcasters use, but
sure.
Not like the top tier stuff you're seeing on the big ones. So anyway, I started recording about 45 seconds ago.
Great.
So just work our way into it.
People need to know that I'm curious about technology.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's important.
Yeah.
You're Jono Zalay.
Mm-hmm.
That's you. You dude, you had an amazing set last night.
Oh, stop it. Thank you.
I made a joke about it on social media, but I mean it. Dana almost peed her pants at your
the bartender?
No, she was the gal that hosted the open mic.
Oh, right. Yeah.
She it was your orphanage joke.
Yeah. She told me she liked that one. That was very nice of her.
Yeah. There was and you it was good. You had everybody on your side really well, and I know there were plenty of Trump supporters in that room, and they didn't care, man. They were like,
yeah,
it wasn't anything too racy.
I don't think the jokes like that joke you're referring to like is an acknowledgement of the era more than like an attack at him personally. It's definitely an attack on him, but it's more like, well, this is crazy, right?
Well, yeah, and you had also spent 20 minutes getting them on your side.
Yeah,
they were,
for sure.
They were eating out of the palm of your hand.
Yeah,
so.
as long as like they know you have a sense of humor, it feels less like an attack.
For sure. You did something I really admire, and I've seen one other guy do it because you have a bunch of like big dumb idiots like me and Danny going up before you, and you have a very different energy.
Sure,
and
yeah.
I like that you've figured that out. Like, okay.
Yeah,
we're gonna adjust to my energy now.
Right, like it's something that I learned to develop. Like the longer I did it, where it's just like I am either going to eat it for a couple of minutes, just going straight into material, or I have to acknowledge that like this is a huge energy shift where I'm going to stand here and tell observational jokes, and I have to like reset everyone for it. Yeah. It's like quick reset. I'm this guy. Here's who I am.
There's another guy. I don't know if you know Brian Simpson, but he's similar too, where he's much more like in the pocket like you are with how he does things, and he does that too. I mean, I think he says, what does he say? He goes, the sooner you guys realize that this is how I'm gonna sound, the more fun we're gonna have.
Yeah,
like, something to that effect.
That's good.
But he's like just letting them know, like, okay,
yeah.
We just gotta like clean the slate, but what? No, I know I was asking you yesterday. You're originally from San Diego.
I am,
but did you start comedy in San Diego?
I did, kind of. I started going to open mics there when I was just out of college, and then I moved to Boston shortly after that.
Yeah.
And so I went to grad school there. So I was there for years and years. And that's where I kind of developed as a comic. I consider myself sort of a Boston comic that started in San Diego, but then lived in New York and LA. Yeah. So, yeah.
And that's funny because both of those scenes are like little brother scenes,
for sure.
And they're both good scenes to like develop in. It seems like
San Diego is a better scene to develop in now than it used to be. Like when I was there was like only the Comedy Store and like Lestat's, like a coffee shop open mic and comedy night.
Gotcha.
And then like the one summer I was there doing comedy, there was a short-lived club called the Comedy Co-op.
Okay.
I think it was 2006, and it was in this like industrial area warehouse thing that they had like almost like a pop-up comedy club. Yeah. And I think it ended up going under like months after I left, but like it was a great time to get stage time if you were new, because like otherwise you were getting you're getting 3 minutes at the Comedy Store every other week.
Right. The La Jolla store.
Yeah. The Comedy Store in La Jolla, the chain of the one in LA. And so like there was just a dearth of stage time, nothing, nowhere to get up other than coffee shop open mics, where you'd like be waiting for music to wrap up or poetry, whatever it was. Yeah. So it was not quality stage time, but like since I left, like it's developed quite a scene. Like there's now 3 or 4 clubs. There's the Comedy Store, Madhouse, American Comedy Company, Comedy Palace. Like those weren't around when I started. So like it's a much better scene to start now.
Yeah, and it's weird too. Like a lot of the dudes out of the San Diego scene are the current like generation of door guys at the Comedy Store now. You know, there's just some insane talent coming out of that scene. So
yeah,
I mean, I mean. That's a bummer that you kind of missed that wave.
Oh, I don't care.
what's the Boston comedy scene like?
Oh, it's good. Like it's traditionally been great. Like it's produced a lot of amazing comics since the 70s and 80s.
Absolutely.
A lot of legends come out of there. And it's a little bit less like it's a little bit more of a standalone scene than like San Diego is, for instance. Like when I was starting in San Diego, like if you had like 5 minutes of material, you moved to LA immediately.
Sure.
Boston is a little bit more self-contained, where like there's been headliners there since the 70s and 80s that never left, and they can work like consistently in the New England scene, the circuit.
That's kind of cool.
It's got its pros and cons.
Sure.
It's like it actually it's good for that generation because they're still working, but like there's such a logjam of other, like if you came up like and become a headliner now, it's just like, well, you got to leave because Steve Sweeney's not moving, and he's doing all the good gigs in New Hampshire or whatever, or the local corporate. So
yeah, and I mean I've talked to a lot of comedians out of Chicago, and they say it's similar there too, where it's just you hit the ceiling real quick, you know, and you kind of have to like make that move.
Yeah.
And so were you were going to school out in Boston? What were you? What school?
Boston University.
Nice. And you have a very cool degree. Tell the people about your degree.
Sure. I have a PhD in neuroscience. That's so it's very silly, and it lends itself to comedy. So it was kind of went hand in hand.
And I mean, I know you talk about it on stage, but what was there like kind of like a come to Jesus moment for you, like with comedy, or
no? Like I was 24 and I sort of rudderless. I was living in San Diego, and I hated my job. I just started going to open mics. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I just knew that I loved comedy. And I was interested in science. So what I did sort of strategically was I applied to graduate schools in cities where I could do stand-up.
Oh, clever.
So I could like kind of work on both simultaneously and then figure it out as I went through. Because like there's like it's a miracle that I even stayed in comedy to begin with, because I was eating shit at open mics and like there was no positive reinforcement at all. Somehow I persevered. And so like like I didn't know if I could stay in comedy, but I wanted to test it out. Yeah. Same thing with science, where it's like, research is cool, but I don't know if I want to do it forever. And so I did both of them in Boston for 6 years until I finished my degree. And like I still like science and would have stayed in it were it not for comedy. It's just the comedy was so much more fun.
Sure. I mean, this is a fun job.
Yeah.
And what was the moment you were like, okay, it's comedy, sorry, science.
It was basically when I graduated, because like I had to like either find a job, like I had applied to a couple different jobs, like I had a postdoctoral fellowship potentially waiting for me at UCLA in Los Angeles, and I didn't want to move to LA. I wanted to move to New York. And so I was like, I could either go and stay in science and like keep doing shows in LA. LA's, I live there now. It's a great place to be if you're a comedian.
Yeah.
But I wanted to like develop as a stand-up more, and New York's a little bit better for that.
Sure.
And I knew that if I had like a 50-hour-a-week job in a lab, I just wouldn't be able to devote the same amount of energy to comedy. And I feel like it's kind of, I was 30 years old at the time now. And like, so I was like, now or never. I'm just going to either be a comic or not.
Yeah.
And the PhD doesn't expire.
Right.
So, that's a good point. Like, I can always find myself ass backwards into an academic job when I'm 40 or 50.
And you may, this position I'm in sometimes is a little tough because I'm like, also trying to think of the next question while also listening to you.
Sure.
Did you already mention? I know you mentioned briefly just a second ago New York. You were performing there too. Mm-hmm. And what was that experience like?
Well, New York's great. It's the best stand-up scene in the world, probably.
Yeah.
It's just bigger, better. Like it's the big C. You're in the small pond, whatever, and like you go there and it's just a wider spectrum, man. Like they have shitty open mics too, like every other city does, but they also have like the best club in the world, in the Comedy Cellar, and then all the best comics in the world are there and working. Like, I mean, LA has a bunch of more famous comedians, I guess I should say, but those are the ones that are like in movies and stuff. Like the best, just pure stand-ups are in New York City, and they're working, and they're at clubs every night. David Tell's my hero. He's at the Comedy Cellar all the time. He like lives above it almost.
Yeah, it's so cool.
And so there's a ton of clubs and a ton of great alt shows and indie venues in New York City. And it's not like it gets in a sort of a reputation. It's like, oh, you can go up like 5 times a night. It's like, that's true if you want to do the worst open mics in rapid succession. Like, you still don't get to, like, someone like me who's a professional and does it more or less full time, like, you get on like 2 or 3 shows a week that are good, like worth telling the internet about. Sure. But the rest of them are just like, well, I go to this mic that's good or whatever, or I go to hang out at this show or whatever. Like, so like, it's not like you get to, like, when I visit now, I can do that because like I can pack all the great shows I would get in over the course of 6 months into 3 weeks. Right, so I was there in May, and I was just like, hey, I'm going from show to show. This is what I wanted to do the whole time I was here. But yeah, like it's just that you're surrounded by a very tense city. So like the audiences are already stressed out and they want to laugh. Yeah. And you know, and like the weather also affects everything. Like they're too hot or too cold. So like it's got the things that can lend itself to a good audience. Yeah. And also there's so many venues, and you're surrounded by people who inspire you, like all the best comedians in the world. Yeah. So you have to really raise your game to stand up.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Is it? And I mean, do you feel like is it easier to make a living in comedy in New York versus LA? I mean, are you making
it depends money? On like what you mean by comedy. In stand-up, it's easier in New York. In the industry, it's easier in LA. So like you're going to get more like acting and writing work in Los Angeles because there's just more showbiz out there in general. There's enough in New York where like, you know, you could do, like I've had short writing gigs there and stuff. Sure. But yeah, like but you get spot pay at clubs in New York if you've been doing it forever. Like I would, you know, get like I said, once a week, but like I'm not going to subsist on spot pay for like the $25 a week I would get from a comedy club in New York. Sure. So generally, when I make money just doing stand up, it's on the road. Gotcha. Or writing. Gotcha. And like I was more willing to move to LA to do more writing work. Gotcha. Than like stay in New York and try to grind away. Yeah. And I mean, have you been road dogging it pretty hard since you've been out in California, or are you? No, I mean, I've been out in LA for 9 to 10 months, I guess. Oh, wow. So not quite a year. I had a couple things. I had to cancel one tour for a writing gig, actually, which is like, you know, it always, I would have loved to have done both, but I had to take the writing gig because it's more lucrative. So this is, I'm doing 4 or 5 weeks this summer, and then I was just in New York for 3 weeks. So like, I don't know. I mean, like not a ton, but I will do, like I'll probably be on the road 2 or 3 months a year. Yeah. And then trying to just do shows in LA and writing the rest of the year. Yeah. I mean, I know that Danny and I are definitely going to have you up again soon. So that's, you got that under. Yeah. I haven't been in California for 10 years. So like I have no idea what all the other outside shows are. Yeah. And so it's fun to see. Like I did do some road work in like Arizona. Like all the stuff that's driving distance I have never done because I never had a car even. Oh, right. Because, you know, Boston, New York, you just go on the subways and everything. Yeah. And so like now that I live here, I can like kind of drive 5 hours to a club or whatever. That's one of the reasons why we can't book a lot of San Francisco comedians, is most of them don't have cars. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean it's a real problem. I mean we've got a few. We know a few guys that are real funny and have a car. Yeah. You'd think they would have like some sort of one of those like apps where you could rent a car for a day. Maybe, or whatever, like a Zip car, whatever it is now, car to go. I didn't know that was a thing. Well, I mean, I don't think you're supposed to drive it outside the city or whatever, but it's usually like, hey, if you need a car for the day, here's a little smart car to go pick up your laundry or whatever. Or zip line. We should just set up a zip line. Oh.
Just get on.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It starts right at the top of the Golden Gate Bridge and
Man.
then makes it all the way to Fresno. It'd be fun.
San Francisco. I haven't been there in a while, so I'm going there tomorrow.
Are you really? Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard it's. I mean, it's always been kind of bad, but I hear it's gotten really bad as far as the socioeconomic divide.
Oh yeah,
it's gotten really, really dramatic in the last few years.
Silicon Valley's just ruined it with all the tech stuff, and like everyone wants to live in the city.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's the driving of the property value, right?
Well, that, and I think it's just. I think the poor have gotten much poorer too. Like,
oh,
I mean,
sure, yeah.
Like, I think it's gone both directions. You know what I mean?
Well, even if you like were poor and trying to do gig stuff like Uber or whatever, is like, oh yeah, we'll get you in to work for us, and then we'll cut your rate in half.
Yeah,
so
right.
Just like they're kneecapping the people that were doing the like unstable jobs to begin with.
Yeah, right.
So it's and like I'm sure the housing prices have gone up and like the wages have stayed stagnant, or gone down.
And I mean, the worst part about situations like that too is I've talked to a few comedians from up there, and they'll talk about their landlord, and it's like they realize he's a slumlord, but at the same time he's doing them an amazing favor by giving them such cheap rent, you know, and
Sure.
it's just making heroes out of the wrong people, you know.
I can't imagine like having to deal with all like that stuff. I mean, it's like it's a little bit similar to New York in that way, where it's more of a metropolitan city where there is a transit system and all that shit, and everyone's on top of each other.
Yeah.
I wish. I don't know. I just like fantasizing about like I wish New York could be in California, but like it's not in the state. Like all the bad stuff of New York is in San Francisco with none of the good stuff.
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah, I mean, San Francisco is a pretty town. I mean,
it's pretty. I'll give it credit. Like it's like the prettiest city in California.
I mean, but there's just this weird energy when you walk in there. It's like you know these. I mean, there's no way these houses are owned by people. You know, I mean, these houses are probably owned. I mean, maybe people, but like Saudi princes and stuff. You know?
Sure.
I mean,
it's the most expensive city in America.
Yeah. What gig are you doing up there?
What's up?
What gig are you doing up there?
Oh, Amnesia, and then it's at Amnesia. I don't know what it's called, and then the Throckmorton Theater, which is in Mills Valley, technically.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I'm just doing a couple shows tomorrow night, and then I head back up to Oregon for the rest of the week.
Oh yeah, Oregon's great.
Yeah, I was excited to do this trip specifically because I've never been between like north of San Francisco, other than like I've been to Portland and Seattle, but like never driven around.
Oh yeah, man.
So like I get to like experience the whole Pacific Coast.
Yeah. That's great,
And
man.
apparently, we got it going on.
Yeah, dude. We have the best cut. You take Highway 1 as long as you can take it and do it. So this is a podcast where we talk about dads.
Oh, yeah.
And Jono, I have it on good authority that you have a dad.
I do.
Yeah. What's his name?
Donald. Yeah.
I like it.
Our current president has ruined Donald's, but he's holding it down, trying to maintain. He's one of the good ones.
Gotcha.
He's one of the good ones.
And now, does he still live in San Diego?
He does.
Word. Is that where he grew up, or did?
Yeah. So both my grandparents, or my sets of grandparents, came to San Diego for the war effort in World War II. Wow. So like both my mom and dad like grew up within a mile of where I grew up.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it is nice. They met in high school.
Oh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
my high school, the same one I went to.
Shut up. This is so weird. That's so cool. It's good to, now, like how old is he? Is he?
He was born in 19. So he turned 68 this year.
Oh, okay. That's the same age as my dad. My dad was born in 50.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. So he was in Southern California for the fun parts. I mean, he was 18 in the 60s.
He wasn't that much of a hippie though, or anything. He was into like sports, and he did have a pretty sweet beard though. I will give him credit for that.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. His wedding photo is just like he looks like a goddamn lumberjack.
Dude, San Diego seems like a magical time to grow up in San Diego. Like
sure
through the 50s and 60s, and yeah. I mean, it seems like you get to see so many things, so many important cultural things.
Yeah, no, he had. I mean, like San Diego's the best city.
It's amazing. I love San Diego.
And so, like, yeah, and like that because when they were started, when he was growing up, like it wasn't as developed as it is now.
Sure.
So like he saw it become a city essentially. It used to be like farmland and stuff.
Yeah.
Like his dad sold tractors because that's how much farming was going on in San Diego County. And now it's a huge sprawl of the houses and everything. Yeah. But like, yeah, he like kind of witnessed it become like what it is now, which is like a thriving metropolis that's very beautiful. Mm-hmm. Although too crowded. Yeah, it's the same thing that's hitting every housing crisis in California along the coast anyway.
I'm like I'm such a lame tourist too, because I'm like, I really like the gas lamp district or whatever. Yeah. Like every San Diegan's like, fuck that place.
I actually was there when it like because he probably witnessed it become the more of a downtown thing, but like downtown was a wasteland growing up for me. Like no one hung out downtown, and then like it took the stadium being built there in 1998 when like the Padres went to the World Series. And everyone was like, "Yeah, they need a new stadium," because at the time Jack Murphy Stadium was like where the Chargers and the Padres played. It was like it sucks for both. So it's like the Padres are good; they need a new stadium. So they got this ballot measure, and like they built a stadium downtown, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
and like it had sort of revitalized that urban, like the same thing that's happening in a lot of cities where it's like, hey, downtown used to be where all the homeless people would do crack, and now there's expensive burgers, and very like fancy cocktail bars, and places to go, and it is a little too touristy in certain parts of the Gaslamp Quarter, but like it's at least you can go out there and like walk around, and it's safe and it's beautiful because like downtown has a lot of old history, and no one was experiencing it when I was growing up.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I don't know. Well, you got to deal with the Comic-Con crowd. I don't know. Have you ever? It can't be fun.
I've only been in San Diego, like, because I left San Diego in, like early 2000s, so like I'd never really experienced. Like growing up, it was a thing, but it wasn't like huge.
Sure.
And it became like huge the more that like Marvel and them started making movies. Like the big budget, like with the money came huge crowds.
Yeah.
And everyone in San Diego seems to hate Comic-Con, other than like a way to make money, because it's such a stimulus for the city.
I think I'd always wanted to go out to Comic-Con, when I was younger, and I've still never been, and now I have zero desire to go.
Right.
Like it's just
a crowded, expensive mess.
Yeah.
And like if you are a true fan of whatever you're into, like you're not going to get the experience you want out of it, other than just seeing someone who you like speak in a crowd of thousands of people at the convention center. So a lot of people like, Airbnb their house and like take that week off.
Yeah. It's like, see you later, San Diego.
Yeah. The one time I was there during Comic-Con, I was doing the American Comedy Company, and like, which is downtown, walking distance of the clinic, and it was like Halloween. Like you just see everyone dressed as Princess Leia or whatever comic book hero they have.
Yeah, right.
It just felt like adult Halloween with a bunch of weird nerds.
I mean, I'm glad everybody's having fun, and like
fine with it.
I hate to, I hate to be like, oh, Comic-Con sold out, but like it was always just a big thing to sell things. Like it's not. I mean, I don't know why I get so. I'm such a hipster about it. It's just like it was all just propaganda to get you to buy comic books or whatever. So, I don't know. Now, did your dad grow up? Was he like living like the quintessential like San Diegan life? Does he like surfing every weekend?
No, his brother surfed. Like he wasn't a big surfer. He was like in a track and field and stuff. Like he was into whatever. I don't really know. He was kind of I don't know. Hard to say, because he never really lived anywhere other than San Diego, so it's not like he was influenced by another thing. He went to San Diego State, and then he went to grad school in Santa Barbara. He was like kind of a environmentalist.
Oh, okay.
He like worked with the Sierra Club out of college for a few years, and just like married my mom and started a family. Whatever. His like, so he's actually. I get a lot of my humor from him. Like the one the thing I've gotten the most press for in my career was my driver's licenses. Have you seen those at all?
No.
Oh, so my dad started this tradition where even back when he was younger, he would take ridiculous driver's license photos. Like he'd go as a character essentially. He'd go as a lumberjack or hitman or what he did. When I was younger, he went as a Civil War general. Like he like shaved just the chin of his beard so it looked like the Burnsides.
Wow.
And went as an interest as a Civil War general for sure. So my brother and I both loved it. And so when we were teenagers, we started doing the same thing where we'd like go as a character. Like when I was 19, I did a sort of a mullet and a Fu Manchu and a tank top.
Holy
so like
shit.
I've been doing it since I was younger. So I have like this, 7 or 8 or I guess 6 or 7 identification photos, like passport, other things where I look completely like nothing like myself. And so I posted the newest one I had in January. I did a Twitter thread like, here's all my photos, here's what my family does, and I took it through
maybe
it.
I don't follow you on Twitter. Maybe that's why I didn't see it.
And so like it got picked up by a bunch of like clickbait sites, or like Mashable or whatever. It was in the.
Maybe I did see it, and I didn't realize it was you.
Yeah, if you just Google DMV prank, there's like, this man's been trolling the DMV for decades.
I did see that. Holy shit, that was you. Wow,
that was me.
Oh,
and it's all started by my dad, who's been doing it since the 70s, and it's actually kind of like part of why I even exist, because like I was telling you, my parents met in high school. They didn't date in high school, but like they met there. My dad was a senior in high school. My mom was a junior. My dad took his senior photo for the yearbook, and then he got back in line with the juniors and took another photo that was silly and said his name was High Karate. Which is like the cologne or aftershave at the time. It was just a very silly prank he was doing or whatever. My mom was the junior editor of the yearbook. And so like she said like, hey, this is not High Karate. This is Don Zalay. I'd recognize him. So she got him in trouble. Like she got him suspended or something. Right, that's basically how my parents met. Was funny. Like my mom getting my dad in trouble for his like photographing pranks.
Oh, that's hilarious! So she totally narked on him.
She totally narked on my dad.
That is hilarious.
Yeah,
man. And so now he graduates. He's a total goofball in high school, and he plays sports, and he graduates, and then. You said he went off to graduate school? I mean, or what?
Oh, he was like an environmental studies thing. I don't even know if he finished his master's or whatever. He just like worked for a political campaign for like the Sierra Club or whatever. He was, this is like when the environmental movement is kind of taken off, sure. I guess.
Yeah, he's at the ground floor of it.
Yeah. And then he just moved back to San Diego after that to work on a political campaign and just got hired and stayed on. And then, yeah, I mean, there's no money in the environment, so he had to get a real job eventually. And so he both my parents were teachers.
Oh, okay. That was kind of where I was getting. So yeah, does he teach at your old high school?
He does.
Shut up.
Yes.
No.
So like he
Mr. Karate.
Yeah. He substitute he's like, both my parents are like sort of semi-retired, so he substitute teaches at my old high school where they love it. It's funny, he's he's like kind of only allowed to teach at my old high school now because he would substitute other schools in the district or whatever, but they wouldn't understand his sense of humor and he'd get in trouble. So he's been like suspended for a couple of times because he would like make some Trump joke, not realizing in certain parts of San Diego County they're like way more into Trump.
Yeah. And
so like the teachers would find out and be like, this guy's riling up our kids or whatever, funny. Just because he's making an offhanded joke about our shitty president.
Right.
And so it's funny.
That is funny. And how long were your folks married before they had? Because you have a brother. You
I have an older brother. They were married in what was it, 78?
Oh, okay.
So he was like 28 when he got married. Mom's 27, and I think they had my brother 2 years later, and me 4 years. So yeah, like my dad was young, low 30s. Mom, like, yeah, they were like 32 and 31 when they had me.
Yeah.
And they're still together.
Yeah. Well,
somehow.
It's so funny. It's like, I mean, if you had told me this was like the story of a like small town in Kentucky, I'd be like, that makes sense. But like, it's this large, like really cool, hip Southern Cal. Like, it seems very rare that you see somebody like grow up and live their entire life in such a small area.
Yeah, it's also just, it's a peninsula. It's already isolated, or whatever in that way. Where like if they cut off Point Loma, which is the peninsula they grew up in, it's like, yeah, it is like just a small town city that they never left.
Yeah.
Which, like, if you've been there, it's very nice. I can't live there because there's no showbiz there.
Sure.
I mean, there is a comedy show at Winston's in Ocean Beach.
Okay. And we're back. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, folks. I have a bad habit of having my computer go to sleep when somebody's mid-sentence. But yeah.
Does it stop recording if that happens?
Yeah, but it's recording now.
Right, okay.
So we're back on. Sorry, I totally interrupted you with my sleeping computer.
Right. So like I left San Diego when I was young because I wanted to like experience some other parts of the country and world.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, my parents never left, and I don't blame them. It is so nice. It's really a great city. And if there was a bigger entertainment scene there that I could sustain myself, I'd probably move back.
I mean, it is kind of a nice lesson in like knowing what you want out of life, and also being satisfied with your surroundings. And like, I mean, clearly whatever fulfillment they were looking for, and I mean, it was there, but it sounds like they found that within themselves. I mean, they weren't these restless spirits or anything. They were like, no, this is good. This is great.
Yeah.
And I feel like so many people that come out of those situations and living in these great places aren't necessarily able to appreciate them in the way that.
Oh, sure.
And so, but it sounds like your folks are they get it.
Yeah. No, they're very chill.
Yeah.
They're nice. They like it.
And so your brother, you're the older?
No, my brother's older.
Oh,
he's 2 years older than me. He's an accountant. He lives in San Diego, like a mile from my parents.
Got it. And he's there too.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't always. He like we had like pretty divergent paths. It was kind of interesting because like when I went to graduate school in Boston, my brother went to the Peace Corps in Belize.
Oh wow.
He was there for 4 years, and then like he moved back, and then was like a wilderness firefighter guy, the ones that do the smoke jumpers or whatever.
Yeah. Your brother sounds like a badass.
He kind of was, and then he like then he kind of diverted, where like my brother was like a jungle dwelling wild man or in the forest fighting fires, while I was like a nerd in a science lab. And then we like completely switched it again, whereas like he moved back to San Diego and became an accountant, and then I just like became a traveling comedian. That's where funny. It's like we've like swapped our like adventurous spirits. It's like well, one of us is doing something horribly irresponsible, while the other one has a very stable, like respectable job.
The
so
yin
like
and yang, I get it.
Yeah, we kind of.
What were your parents' thoughts on you getting into stand-up comedy?
Oh, I mean, they're technically very supportive. My dad loves it. He has a great sense of humor and is whatever. He has no real opinion other than liking it. My mom has made peace with it, and it is very supportive in a literal sense, but it definitely also has like, so what are your long-term plans? Did you see that they are investing more in neuroscience research? They were just like President Obama signed a huge initiative to get more research funding for Alzheimer's or whatever.
She means well.
Yeah. It's like, she's like, you should definitely still be a researcher, maybe. I don't know.
And I mean, I don't know. I guess, is there big bucks as a scientist?
I mean, there could have been if I went into like private. Because I say it's pharmacology. I think I mentioned it. I used to give cocaine to rats.
Oh yeah, that's a great. I didn't want to step on your bit. But
sure, no. Hilarious. I mean, like I talked about it too many times on stage. I forget what I've said or haven't. But yeah, like I studied addiction and everything, which is, obviously huge and hugely relevant in today's society.
It is.
Drugs and addiction, all that stuff. So I could have gone potentially into the pharmaceutical industry or like stayed in academic research. Academic research is a painful toil. Like you're constantly trying to beg the government for money and like you're comfortable, but like you're not killing it, and it takes a lot of your time and effort and whatever. Whereas like the more industry side of it's like very lucrative and snazzy, but you have no soul and you're contributing to the downfall of society. So it wasn't that great of options for what I wanted to do with my life.
Sure.
But I could, it could have been comfortable. I just didn't want to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, how much, and you're studying, you studied addiction. How much of that, I mean, were you able to take any like practical lessons from that? Like,
addiction in general?
Yeah.
I mean,
do you feel like you understand it, like any of the pitfalls?
No, like the thing I was studying was how to like a specific neural process of like extinction learning to stop doing something.
Nothing to do with the psychology of it.
Nothing really. I was aware of it obviously because it's part of the whole spectrum, whatever. So like I was aware that I was absolutely addicted to doing stand-up, for instance. Like it's a behavioral addiction. The same way like we know we're addicted to our phones.
Yeah.
Like I knew I was addicted to stand-up.
Yeah.
Like I was like all the DSM criteria for like addiction is just like, oh yeah, I'm willing to abandon all my relationships with friends and family to do it. It's like, of course I've done that.
Yeah.
All my friends now are stand-ups. I used to have regular friends.
Yeah.
And like, monetary stuff, like just like you crave it, even if you never get that same high again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like all those things that like make me, the validation you get from stand-up is a rush and it's a high and it's so we crave it.
Yeah.
And so I was aware of that, but also was like, I still want to do it.
Is there any science to this? Might be a dumb question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Is there any science to like bombing? You know what I mean? Like if you're craving that high and you bomb, what is it? Is it the addiction that kicks in that makes you want to go back out there and do it again? Or is that more ego or what?
It's like. I mean, it's kind of, like, I guess it's sort of like getting a hot dose or whatever, or having a bad night of drink. Where it's just like, man, I gotta get right.
Yeah.
Like I want to get a better time. Like, give me another shot at it. But it does like when you're expecting, like when you have that expectation of good stuff, because there is a like neuroscience behind the like reward of expectation.
Yeah.
Where like you can only really get to that baseline. Whereas like it's same thing like on Christmas morning, like if you're, it's the excitement that gets you rather than like opening the present is not as like rewarding as the expectation because I can only ever just meet it. Like so it has to be a surprise that would like really give you that pleasure. Whereas like if you're expecting something and it doesn't happen, and in fact the opposite or whatever, it's like even more devastating.
Yeah.
Than like if you weren't expecting it.
Sure.
Because of the expectation. So it's it has a psychological effect for sure. And yeah, it's devastating.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it's never happened.
Never, not even one time.
I would. Yeah. I'm like Sinbad. I've never bombed.
Have you ever watched any of Sinbad's specials? He's
not for a while, but
I caught like a clip off of one of them, and it was really funny.
He's good. He's great.
Really funny.
Like I'm kind of surprised he's not a bigger deal.
Yeah.
Like people, I think in stand-up generally like and respect him, but like I think they should even more. Like he should be up there, like near the Mount Rushmore level. Like, I mean, I don't think he's one of those people that's like always good, maybe never great. But like he's just always got it.
Well, and it seems like he's just one of those dudes that fell through the cracks, and he just missed the superstardom.
Yeah, like all his movies in like the 90s were just like fine.
Yeah.
At no point did he break through like a Kevin Hart or whatever.
Right. Or any of those guys from that. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm not sure what his generation would have been.
Oh, it was like
Is he younger than Eddie?
like Ray Romano.
Oh, right.
That era.
Mid 90s era.
Yeah.
Did he have a sitcom?
Martin?
Oh,
or Martin
yeah,
Lawrence?
Martin Lawrence would have been. Yeah, that seems
like
about right.
Yeah, like him and Martin were probably on a similar career trajectory, but like Sinbad, I think Sinbad might have had a TV show. But I love Martin's TV show. And everything. And so I just remember like various wacky neighbor type movies for Sinbad.
Yeah, I remember weirdly enough the role there's Kazam. No, wait, that was Shaq. That's one of those Berenstein Bears things.
Yeah. It's like you were in that genie movie, right, Sinbad? He's like, no.
Shit, I totally fell for that. But he was in
You're
that.
racist.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. He was in that Arnold Schwarzenegger movie with where they're trying to get the toy.
Yeah,
Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way.
Yeah. So okay.
Those seem pretty typical of his roles.
Yeah.
Where it's like kind of a wacky, family-driven comedy.
Yeah,
which is fine.
I didn't mean to go down this Sinbad rabbit hole quite this deep, but here we are.
Right.
So, what was the relationship like with your dad?
Oh no, it's
Did you guys
good.
get along?
Yeah, I mean, like he was like my mom did most of the raising of my brother and I, whereas like she was. But he was around to get. I mean, he did. He was just a very chill presence, like not a super disciplinarian or anything like that.
Sure.
But would take us on outdoor adventures and stuff like that. I was in the Boy Scouts, so we'd go camping, hiking.
Yeah.
He did he did some fun outdoor outings with us. That was more his thing. He loved canoeing.
Your dad sounds rad.
Yeah,
I love
great.
that. And I like what, you and I kind of come from like a similar position here, because like I hear a lot of people talk about comedians like, oh, you can't really be a comedian unless you've had like some seriously fucked up stuff. And I was like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I've had some bad stuff happen, but I don't know. I mean, it seems like there's this weird.
I think that is a symptom rather than the underlying issue. Like my philosophy on it, like, 'cause like I had no trauma growing up. I have a very privileged life. But I think that comedy comes like, or like the I guess like what resonates with people is coming at an issue from a different perspective.
Yeah.
So like it doesn't have to come from a place of pain or anguish, but like when you're in those states, you look at the world differently.
Yeah.
And like if you look at the world differently for a completely different reason, that can also just like so you can relate to something common, like, hey, did you guys ever think about this situation? Like, but you have this insight about it.
Yeah, right.
Whereas like here's the emotion I tie to it, here's the observation, here's my take on this common thing.
Right.
And as long as you have that different perspective, it's going to come across humorously. But I rarely come at it from a place of like, here's how fucking depressed I am.
Yeah.
I rarely go to the sad place. I can go dark for sure, because I am certainly like, I am observational in nature, and so I'm like, I know what's going on in the world. I can see it's a nightmare. Like I'm aware of I'm so much more disappointed in our country's racism over the last decade than I thought I would be as an adult. It's like, holy shit, we are capable of these horrible things. Our country has many problems with the way it deals with people. And so I like will address that in a dark way that like it's easier for me to deal with. It's like, yep, things are bad, but here's my joke about it. Yeah, so like it's
just be clever and thoughtful.
Yeah,
it seems like a good way to go.
Yeah, I got the more character defining humor thing from my whereas like I have a very analytical brain. The line I use is like, even though I no longer do research, I still know so much science. It's ruined my interpretation of regular thing, like perspective on the world. It's like I can't unknow all these things about human behavior or physics or whatever.
Yeah. Do you lend? I've always thought it was. When people say, when they try to relate comedy to things like math and science, I mean, What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you approach it in any way similar to that? I've kind of cringed a little bit when people have said it's like, oh, bro, science, the science of comedy and the science of math.
I mean, like humor theory and like incongruity.
Yeah.
I actually have been. I'm interested in it, but like never enough where like I've yet to find a conclusive universal field theory on humor. Like my friend Raj and I have like put on hiatus this like comedy science project where it's like, let's get to the bottom of this. Like, what is going on? Where it's like, there's something going on, some weird math in our head.
Yeah.
Because like, there's been a couple of books published about like humor theory where it's like benign violation. It's like a thing that you were violated for, but it's not so painful that it's like, you know, thing like I'll give you the example, like the orphanage fire joke that I do, where it's like, we're just like, trying to make a joke about Donald Trump is like trying to make a joke about an orphanage fire. It's already funny, which is like, you know, it's a classic misdirect. But like, if you like, I tried to do a joke like that once where I don't even think it was that one, but it was something else where I was like referencing a fire and it like completely bombed and I like did not know why. And it's because it was like on like a college campus where a student had died in a fire that week.
Oh shit.
Whereas like everyone on that college campus was not ready to laugh at someone dying in a fire.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, that makes
rough. Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's kind of lends credence to their thing. It's like, obviously orphanage fires are hilarious, but like they don't exist. So it's like this abstract concept.
Yeah,
it's benign.
Yeah.
It's like that's their theory, and like it's more or less true, but it's like it's a simplification. Like there doesn't have to be a violation for it to be funny. It doesn't have to be benign. It can be like it can be. That's why there's like no universal thing that I've accepted where it's like, oh, this is the framework that shows why everything's funny or not.
So we. I was going to ask you for one last thought on your dad. Do you have? You've told me some funny stories about him.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite like dad anecdote that you want to go out on?
Like just a thing from my childhood or whatever.
Yeah, just a good memory.
Yeah, there's one thing he did which I really loved. It was almost like a prank thing where like I only realized years later what a cool thing it was. Is like I was maybe 7 or 8. And like we live on peninsula where there's like it's near a military base. Like half of Point Loma is a Navy base.
Yeah.
And submarines are there and everything. So he came up with this. Like he also like he's a big forager for like yard sales, garage sales and stuff like that. So he like goes and finds all these old artifacts and everything. And he's also a hoarder. It's a real big problem. But
oh man, we totally missed that.
Yeah.
You get if that thing's giving you some trouble.
I'm fine. He's an interesting character, but so he collects all this stuff from garage sales, and he found all these like old nautical equipment, like it was like a sextant and a porthole from like an old like wooden Navy ship or whatever, something like that. All this different brass stuff. Nautical thing, and like so what he did is he went down to our like sort of local cliffs beach area, and he buried all of them and on this beach and said like, hey, back in World War II there was like a Japanese submarine that like crashed off of our peninsula and they never really found all the artifacts from it.
Wow.
And so like he took my brother and I think my cousin as well, like down to the beach, is like, let's go try to find some artifacts. And so he went on this little treasure hunt with him that was like very cool. And so we like found all this. So I was like, oh my God, there's this thing sticking out of the beach. Let's go dig it up. What a fun activity.
Cool.
And so like I felt like for years I had like discovered this sunken submarine stuff. And like only way too late in my life did I realize like, holy no, there's no fucking way we found World War II submarine shit on a public beach.
That is really cool, though.
In like 1990.
Yeah.
but
like
then
in the newspaper.
And I like brought it, I was like, yeah, that is a great fun adventure you took us on, and kind of a fun prank.
How cool. That is really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Jono, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Can you tell the people where to find you?
I'm at Jono Zalay on every form of social media, or jonozalay.com for all my website stuff. But generally Twitter is the best way to follow what I'm up to.
You're
whatever.
A prolific tweeter, and I always love your posts. So funny,
at Jono is how you spell Jono. I'm pretty easy to find once you get that first part. Jono Zalay with a Z.
I'll link your Twitter in the show notes. But yeah, man, thanks so much for being on. You were a ton of fun.
Thank you.
All right. And we're back. Jono Zalay, everybody. He's great, right? He's so funny. Yeah, he was up here. We hung out quite a bit, and he's one of those guys that just kind of never stops working, and it's always a real inspiring thing for me to see somebody in the industry, a professional comedian, conducts himself in a very professional way, but he's also just super down to earth, and he's just so fun. I've got I'm gonna link his Twitter in the show notes. Please follow him on Twitter, because it is one of the best follows you'll ever make. He's so funny. And I'll also link, we mentioned it in the show, that the ID prank, the driver's license prank, and that was something I had seen pop up in my newsfeed like beginning of this year. I saw it like endlessly, and I didn't put together that was him until he mentioned it, and then I went back and looked at it. I'm like, holy shit, this has been shared so many times, and I personally had seen it, scrolled through it several times, and so that's kind of neat and surreal that he he went viral like that. Next week I'll be back with another really funny, thoughtful, sweet guy. His name is Theo Manhattan. That's going to be a really fun show, so check that out next week. I've got some cool shows going on around here tonight. I guess this podcast is going to be released on Thursday the 12th. And my phone is going bonkers right now. I'm so sorry. I forgot to silence it. But yeah, Thursday the 12th, we have, for all my Fresno people, we have a new show happening at the Broadway Event Center in downtown Fresno, right next to the baseball stadium. It's called Comedy on Broadway. Hit me up if you want. I can comp you some tickets. It's a podcast exclusive. We've got some fun headliners. Feather DeWise is headlining. Also, my buddy and partner in crime, Danny Minch, and Greg Williams. And I'm going to be hosting. I'm going to be doing a lot of time up front. So if you've ever wanted to see me do stand-up and haven't gotten around to it, this is your chance. I did a really cool show on last Saturday at Strummers in Fresno. It was so fun. I had a great set. That crowd was such a good time. It was like 200 people in the room. It was fantastic. I had so much fun. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and I'll post up my dates if you want to see when I'm going up. I run 5 shows a week, so you can literally see me anytime you want, either at Grog's or DeChico's in Old Town Clovis. So that's it for today, guys. I'm trying to do a better job of promoting myself too. That's something. It's tough being a comic these days. You gotta know so many things. Very few of which pertain to actually being funny. You have to be like a marketing wizard. I know some people have been on me on social media about starting a Sad Dad Facebook page, and I guess I can do that. I guess. I suppose I can use it for other things, for promoting shows and stuff that I'm on. And also too, Finley's on Film is a podcast I was on, and we did an episode. They're a film podcast, and we did an episode on Jaws, and it is so fun. Like, before, it's a live recording of a podcast in front of an audience. It's actually in one of the hosts, Joseph, it's in his backyard. We did like a summer movie night, outdoor movie night. We all sat in lawn chairs and watched Jaws. And then afterwards, we did a live podcast in front of, there was like 30 or 40 people in his backyard. And it was so much fun. I way over researched that film. I mean, I know so many things about Jaws, you guys. So many things. Like, did you know that Steven Spielberg can be seen in the background of the scene with the news reporter on the beach? He can be seen in the background in the band playing the part of first chair clarinet. Did you know that? Because I do. Now that podcast is done, now that we've already recorded that episode of their podcast, Finley's on Film, I don't know what to do with that knowledge. What do I do with that? Nothing. It's just useless trivia taking up space in my brain. Space, who knows what I could have done with that space, you know? If I still had that. A space currently occupied by Steven Spielberg playing clarinet. I don't know. I don't think I would have like cured cancer or anything with that headspace, but maybe something more meaningful. I don't know. All right, I'm just rambling now. Okay, guys, I'll try to make a point to have Abby on next week's show because again, I know you guys respond very positively to that. She's a fun kid. I like her a lot, and that's it for this week. Again, follow Jono. He's the best, and another big old thank you to him for doing it. So that's it, you guys. Adios.